When it comes to watercolor painting, do you struggle to achieve rich, luminous darks or blacks in your paintings? Today I'm going to talk about different ways to mix darks and when and how to use them. So let's get started. If you've been experimenting with watercolors for any length of time, then you know there's more to each pigment than meets the eye when they come out of the tube. They each have different properties and behave differently on your paper. So with keeping that in mind, I'm going to show you my top 5 ways that I like to achieve darks in my watercolor paintings and suggestions on how and when to use each. And stay to the end of this video because I will share one bonus tip that will help you fix any darks at the end of your painting if they didn't quite make the mark. Mixing dark number 1, Burnt Sienna and French Ultramarine. These colors are very popular with watercolor artists because you can mix it and achieve either a warmer or a cooler dark color. Here I'm showing you how to mix it on the palette for a uniform color. After it's mixed, you apply it to your paper. This is a nice way to achieve a uniform color in an area of your painting. My number 2 mixture for creating darks in your watercolor paintings is French Ultramarine and Burnt Sienna. But this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. Here, instead of pre-mixing them to uniform color, I'm allowing them to mix on the paper, and the interesting variations in color adds a lot of visual interest. You can paint an area wet on wet or wet on dry and get 2 different effects from that. One important thing to keep in mind about French Ultramarine is that it is a granulating color. That means it has larger particles that are suspended in the liquid watercolor, and when it dries, they settle into the grooves of the paper, which creates this mottled textural effect. This can look really nice for something that you already want to have texture, like sand or a rock or some other kind of rough texture. But if you're looking for something that you want to be clear and glassy and smooth, like a sky or some water, then French Ultramarine is probably not the best color to use for that. So that brings me to mixed dark number 3, Winsor Violet and Perylene Green. These colors are already very deep and intense when they come out of the tube, so when you mix them together, you can easily and quickly get a very dark color. You can experiment with these colors the same way as the Burnt Sienna and French Ultramarine by mixing them on the palette for a uniform color, or wet into wet on the paper to let them mix gradually. And of course, wet on dry and wet on wet will give you different results as well. Dark mix number 4 is Pyrrol Scarlet and Pthalo Blue by Daniel Smith. The Scarlet is a warm red and the Pthalo is a cool blue, so when mixed together they make a nice neutral dark color. Both of these colors are part of the Daniel Smith Essential set, which includes a warm and cool version of each red, blue, and yellow, and I will have a link to that kit in the description below. If you would like to learn more about mixing almost any color you want from these 6 pigments, go to my website at auralessonjack.com and download your free copy of the Mud No More Watercolor Mixing Guide. This will show you how to mix almost any color from gorgeous greens, vibrant neutrals, darks, and every color in between. I will also add a link to get your free guide in the video description. Now on to dark number 5, which is black paint from the tube. I know it's a taboo among a lot of watercolor artists. They always say, don't use black straight from the tube because it has no life and it's flat and what. Although I do prefer to mix my own blacks in most paintings, especially with natural subjects, sometimes using black from the tube can really help to make a really bright color pop out, or if you're using more of an illustrative style, it definitely has its place. The other way you can use black from the tube is to mix it with one of your other colors. Here I painted black in this area, and while it was still wet, I dropped in some Winsor Violet and some alizarin, and on this one I used Pthalo Blue and Viridian. This just shows you that you can add other colors to add a little bit more depth and interest to plain black paint. Okay, now for the bonus tip. Let's say that you finished your painting and you're looking for a really dark part of your painting and it's just not quite dark enough, or it's the wrong color temperature. Well, one thing you can do, assuming you're using good quality paper, is mix a glaze, which is a watered down transparent color, to go over it to change either the depth or the temperature of the painting. So for example, if it's too cool, you can use a warm glaze of alizarin, for example. Just water it down and paint over it. And you can do this multiple times in thin layers to get the depth that you want or the temperature that you want. And the same if your background color is too warm, you can cool it down with a glaze of phthalo blue, for example. Just make sure that you choose a transparent color that's not opaque or semi-opaque, because it will add a cloudy layer to your paintings. It's always good to test swatch on a scrap piece of paper before you add it to your entire painting. In this frog painting from a couple weeks ago, I did a glaze at the end to deepen that black color behind the frog. I will leave a link in the video description if you'd like to see how I painted it. So those are my top 5 ways, plus bonus, of achieving darks in your watercolor paintings, and I'm really glad you joined me today. What are your favorite ways to mix darks for your watercolor paintings? Let me know in the comments for this video. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to learn more about watercolor painting from me, then please consider subscribing to my channel. You can also click the notification bell to be alerted when a new tutorial comes out, and you can click one of these videos to learn more about watercolor painting as well. Thanks again for joining me, and happy painting! Bye!